Is Fortnite an esport? Okay. Hi, I'm Ben Feferman.
And I'm Rachel.
And welcome to Esports Unfiltered, where every week we are going to break down news, stories, scandals in the esports industry. Is Fortnite an esport? This is one of those topics as well with the Olympics where everyone loves to talk about it and discuss it. So let's go through it. What are some of the pros and cons? Why do some people think that Fortnite is an esport? And what are the arguments that Fortnite is not an esport?
I don't know if we would say some people, because some of the biggest streamers on the planet have already said, including Tfue himself, that Fortnite is not an esport or a competitive game. And these points are based off of the cheaters, colluders, stream snipers, and it lacks competitive integrity that Epic Games just doesn't uphold. TSM Lena has basically also said the same thing.
I think we have to differentiate though between the game and the league, okay? Now, if you want to say, is Fortnite an esport? Technically, anything, any computer game can be an esport. So I think the purest definition, of course it is. I think the real argument is it a good esport or is it a competitive esport? So I think when we frame it like that, the biggest criticism is, the meta constantly changing, for example. But so what? The meta changes in lots of games. So like, is there some sort of meta police out there that's saying, oh, you made eight updates here, and other games can only make, you know what? It changes. Like you got to trust the game developer. They're going to make some changes, and you got to kind of just live and die by it. They're always trying to improve the game and the fan base.
I mean, I think when it comes down to the changing of the meta, it's really about like measurables. Like it becomes unfair if it's changing constantly. Even before the major tournaments, Epic has said they will continue to make these changes regardless of the timing. So how can it be like an official esport game that's measurable, has a win state, if one day it's the SMG and the next week it's the scoped AR that are OP? And not to mention there's swords and there's planes and there's all this stuff. So it becomes very unpredictable.
Yeah, it is definitely a douchey thing to change the meta like the day before a big tournament, there's no doubt. But kind of the criticism of, that there's too much randomness, RNG in Fortnite, I think with any battle royale, there is that randomness. You're gonna drop somewhere. Hey, maybe you find a good gun, maybe you don't. Like, that's battle royale. So if you think Fortnite is too random, then all of them are like that. And the only way to kind of change that is other game modes, whether it's box fights or things like that. And so what if there's a bit of luck? Is poker, I would say, is for sure a sport. And at the end of the day, who knows what you're getting on the river? Your last card can make or break your hand, but it's not what you get, it's how you play it. Think about that one. Good quote from my Wikipedia page. I forgot what I just said. It's not what you get, it's how you play it. So you may have a loadout, but if you're a good player, you'll still win. In poker, for example, does the person with the best hand always win? No, of course not. Does the person who gets the best loadout in Fortnite, like gets all the guns right away and whatever, do they always win right away? No. I think there's gonna be some luck in every sport, and it's how you play it. Traditional sports have tons of luck as well, like bounces here, a bad bounce there. You gotta accept it and just live with it.
I mean, I think when we talk about luck, it's like there are random number generators. Like there's too much luck in this game. Is there a gold AR in that chest, or is there a pistol that could change the outcome of the entire game? Like the best player might not win because of the RNG factor. And I think that's what makes the game a little bit unfair, to be honest.
Right. Let's talk about the competitive integrity for a second, because I think that encompasses a lot of the points you're making, and of course others. Do I think that Epic is bad at running a competitive scene for their game? Yeah, I do. But I don't think that it's at the point where it lacks competitive integrity.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about integrity, I feel like we have to address the disproportionate number of cheaters in this game. Like basically 1 out of every 2 esports bans is probably Fortnite.
True. You want my counterpoint to that? Yeah, so it's like saying, if there were 100 cheaters in basketball, and there was only 10 cheaters in football, does that mean that basketball is not a sport and football is? I don't think there's a correlation between the number of cheaters and the competitive integrity of the game. I honestly think Fortnite has a high number of cheaters because they're kids and they don't know better. They lack morals and ethics and things like that. And yeah, it sucks, but there's cheating in every game. Look at CSGO and their cheating scandal. Everyone cheats. Yes, Fortnite does have more cheaters. There's more ways you can kind of cheat in Fortnite because of stream sniping, which you can't really get in I guess you can. But whatever, yeah. And also, like, there's way more cheating in traditional sports, like steroids. You know, like, do you guys remember that part about baseball where like every player was caught cheating? And even just this, I want to bring up the point, like, what's the difference between breaking the rules and cheating?
Well, I mean, I think pro physical athletic sports that are currently in the Olympics have these regulations in place and these checks in place to make sure people are not doing steroids or doping or doing whatever they might be doing that constitute as cheating. I mean, cheating is doing something outside of the game, going in with the intent to give you an unfair advantage. And I think breaking the rules has to do with, you know, a decision that you're making in the moment during that game, both of which you shouldn't be doing. But I think that, like you said, Fortnite opens up a big opportunity, and digital games in general open up a big opportunity for cheating, because if you have that knowledge, you can alter that experience, you can alter that game in your favor. And that's the problem with that balancing, is that I think we need to have these regulations and discuss these regulations and rules that we're going to put into place before we just throw esports into the professional Olympics and the professional ring, really.
So that's a good point. And I want to maybe even throw it out to the viewer. What's the difference between, we don't use the term penalty or foul or, you know, in esports, right? Like, I'll give you an example. So if you're playing hockey and you trip someone, you broke the rules. You're not allowed to do that, and you get a penalty. Or in football, it's a flag, or, you know, it's a penalty, it's a foul, whatever the sport is. But you're never considered a cheater, even though in game you did something to give you a competitive advantage over someone else, knowing that you might not even get caught. I feel like that same action in esports, we call them cheaters. But in traditional sports, we say it's a penalty. So it's just kind of thinking about, like, and I'm not justifying any of the cheaters, they're all and should be penalized, but we got to think about what you're doing, is it cheating or kind of is it a penalty in respect to the gameplay?
I think it has to do with intent, you know, like, are you going into that game with the intent of manipulating it in your favor, or are you making a poor decision in that moment? You know, sometimes, you know, in physical sports, it's due maybe to emotion or you know, like heightened tensions in that moment. So I think it definitely has to do with intent. I mean, we can prove that somebody's been taking steroids. We can prove that somebody's been doing something on their own time, but we can't prove that somebody plotted to trip somebody, right? So it's about intent, and it's about, yeah, making sure that we're checking these players and anticipating these problems like we do in real sports, but in an esports realm. Like, and how can we anticipate those problems and put those regulations?
That's a good point you make. You're saying kind of cheating, it's like a little bit more premeditated. You usually know ahead of time you're gonna stream snipe. Not always, but usually. You usually know ahead of time you're gonna use a bug in the game to cheat. Versus a penalty, you don't really know that you're gonna commit the foul, the penalty. It's more like spur of the moment, you know, things like that. Yeah, it's definitely a good point. This debate is going to rage on, and especially because Fortnite is really becoming more than just a game. You know, it is a music festival. It's a film festival. It's becoming all these things. So although many pros have left, I think there's going to be a tipping point in that public opinion, or maybe the whole battle royale genre in general is just not going to be taken seriously as an esport, and Fortnite is going to have to preserve the competitive integrity with different game modes, box fights, and things like that. So let us know what you think. I'm Ben Feferman.
I'm Rachel, aka Chellalilbella.
Don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and stay classy and safe, Washington, D.C.